So today I wanted to talk about two topics. Come here, Chase, so I can show you. Um, I wanted to cover two different concepts. The first one is 200 chi damage raising, or damage augmentation, I guess. EL2. All right. So there are three types of 200 chi damage augmentation. There's three different methods that you can use to raise your damage with 2 sparks. And those are Power Dash, Subsea, and Double Spark. And so they each have their own each have their own unique properties. And on TT99 server, they actually are, I would consider them all good, except you use them in different situations. So I'm going to talk about first Power Dash, then Subsea, then Double Spark. And I'll talk about what they do, any interesting effects, and the situations they are really useful to use them in. So we'll start off with Power Dash. Power Dash is actually really, really good on TT99 server, as you've probably already noticed, just because base crit is just so low. Like my base crit wearing full gear and not bone razors is 26%, which is pretty pathetic. But after I Power Dash, it becomes 76%. And that is a huge spike in damage compared to something like EPW or Storm, where your base crit is like 70, 60, 80%, you know. And that's just basic math, you know. Like 1.76 divided by 1.26 is a bigger increase than 2, which I guess is the maximum, divided by like 1.7 or something like that. So mathematically, it's just a lot better. So Power Dash is used to generate crits. So it increases your damage by increasing your critical rate, but the damage of your crits themselves isn't increased. So that's very different from Subsea and Double Spark. So let's say that your base attack is 100, and you hit 100 on every single attack. Very simplified theory. So because you have Wolf Emblem, a crit will hit for 220. Yes. So you go from hitting more 100s and hitting 220 26% of the time to hitting less 100s and 220 76%. Is a lot better. So it increases damage. What else does it do besides increase damage and crit rate? It's very fast, which is why you can chain attacks like this. It's why I can do this kind of odd-looking combo and still get in every attack, even though I'm using like a 2-spark skill. Power Dash itself only takes 1.2 seconds, which is faster than Double Spark, which is 2 seconds. It's faster than Subsea, which is 2.6 seconds. So you can just put it in places that otherwise you normally wouldn't have. And plus, it also guarantees, or pretty much guarantees, its own effect applies to itself, so it can be used as a kind of guaranteed crit. So that might be useful in something like trying for a bypass. Power Dash is a nice skill to bypass with, because you know it'll pretty much always crit. Well, 76% of the time. So Power Dash is really good against arcanes because they have really weak armor. It's also really good against light armor, especially Sins, just because it's so fast that most Sins can't react to. But it's not as good against heavy armor characters. It is good, but it's not as good or it's less comparable to something like Subsea, and here we'll discuss why. So remember how I said base attack is like 100 and your crit would be like 220, and how Power Dash just makes you hit like more 220? Well, Subsea makes you take, on Sage version, 50% more damage. So those numbers would actually be changed to 1.5 or 150, and if my math is correct, it would be 330. So it would go from 100 or 220 to 150 versus 330. So this is a 50% increase in damage, and you look at it as pure mathematical basis. But when you examine it in the real world, what you find is that actually increases the potential damage. It increases the damage ceiling. Like, imagine instead of increasing average damage as much as Power Dash does, which it does, by the way, Power Dash pretty much increases average damage more. Subsea increases the ceiling of your damage. So it increases the potential to which your damage can go to. Power Dash, you can crit for really high numbers, but the numbers that you crit for won't be any higher than normal crits. But with Subsea, your crits will be even higher than they normally are. And this is really good against classes that you do combos against that you don't have a guaranteed combo. But if you got lucky and got like 4 crits in a row, and you had the Subsea effect applied on, then you would damage. So imagine Barb, BM, these types of classes, Seeker. Although it's kind of dangerous to use against Seeker because they can quit pro on you. But anyways, yeah. So to review, Power Dash equals raising average damage, and Subsea equals raising your potential damage, which is more important against tanky classes versus the first one, which is more important against squishy classes. So Subsea or Power Dash for tank? Well, I would say I use a mix depending on the situation. I use Subsea if I feel like I have more time to use it because it just takes longer. And I also use Subsea to AoE, obviously, but if I feel like I'm going to be hitting the target longer, like if I'm going to hit them 5 times instead of power dashing them for 2 hits and then they'll run away, because power dash is faster and you'll be able to get in more hits before they get away. Power dash I would use on arcanes and characters that are good at kiting because it's so fast that I can still take advantage of the damage. So those are your 200 chi skill options for increasing your damage. The final option is obviously double spark, which is, I would say, probably the most common version that people use, especially like anywhere. Most because double spark is really the best outside of TT99. It's only when you get to TT99 that they start displaying each skill's own individual properties that make them slightly better or worse in different situations. So double spark is a really interesting skill. It obviously increases your weapon damage, and it heals you, which is pretty important in contesting for damage. But most importantly, it gives you your 2-second immunity. So power dash versus Subsea versus double spark. In terms of damage alone, Power Dash is kind of unique, and Subsea and Double Spark both raise your capacity for damage and average damage, but it doesn't guarantee crits and damage that the same way Power Dash does. So to review that again, Power Dash is raising average damage, Subsea is raising your potential damage, and Two Spark is also raising your potential damage. So on Two Spark versus Subsea, which one should you use more often? Well, again, that depends on the situation. So the thing that separates Double Spark from Subsea is the immune casting time. Yeah, it would raise both. But so the best way to think about it is Power Dash. Oh, this is a better way to put it. Power Dash guarantees high damage. Subsea Two Spark guarantee averagely better damage, but potentially huge damage. That's a good way to put it. Very nice. Potentially huge, but usually better as well. Unless you just like are become Walpurga and just 5 non-crits in a row. All right, so the thing that separates Subsea and Two Spark is the immune time for 2 seconds. So this allows you to block hits, which is very important in Sin versus Sin, as well as really versus any class, because you can use it to block stuns, you can use it to block any skill you can imagine, because it's the same Iron Guard effect as, well, Iron Guard, even though it only lasts for 2 seconds. So this lets you tank it basically gives you some time for charm to tick. So, for example, if you double spark after your charm is ticked, then those 2-second immunity basically means that your opponent can only hit you for 8 seconds now, as opposed to 10 seconds to tick your charm. So it is really nice for defense. Um, and it also has a nice effect that it lasts for 12 seconds, whereas Subsea only lasts for 8 seconds, and Power Dash also only lasts for 8 seconds. So it lasts a little bit longer. But the thing with Double Spark, though, is that you can't do anything while you're casting it for a whole 2 seconds, which is basically as bad as Subsea. People can get away from this really, really easily, especially on this version of the server, which has deep sleep. So I almost use Double Spark in I use Double Spark in two types of situations, I would say. One, defensively, to block damage, especially after my charm ticks, and two, offensively, when I know my opponent can get away, like when they're frozen. And because they're basically just like stuck with me now, and I can just roll them instantly. At least. But if they're not stopped, then they can get away really easily from 2-Spark because it's really easy to react. It's bright, it's flashy, it's slow. You can't move while you're doing it. You can't cancel it, unlike Subsea or Power Dash. And you can't use like Apoth or stuff like that. So it's really easy to get away from. So those are the 3 ways you can use your 200 chi to increase damage. One final review. Power Dash increase guarantees high damage. Subsea, fast attack, gives possibly very high damage. And Spark equals slow, defensive, is possibly very high damage. To cover some basic examples about when I would use each of this, I might use Power Dash at like when I'm about to kill someone, just because it will be a surprise. So let's say I was hitting Chase, and his charm is ticked. He's about halfway dead. A surprising move here would be to Power Dash and just instantly clear the rest of his HP before he can react, because it's such a fast skill and it's a guaranteed attack, or nearly guaranteed crit. Now let's say I was attacking Dante, except my gear is bad because I don't cash out, so I only have a Bone Razor. And I know he's going to stay next to me because he's a Barb. And Barbs like to be melee. In this case, I would actually use Subsea, because I know he's going to stand next to me for the full 8 seconds. I know I don't need to take advantage of Power Dash's speed. And I know that because he's tanky, I might benefit from the potentially a lot higher damage that I would get with Subsea. Now let's go into a situation that I would need Double Spark for. Need Double Spark if my charm was ticked. So for example, I'm attacking Chase right now. I'm going to tick his charm. He's going to get rolled, but after charm tick, he actually Double Sparks, which gives him a little bit of extra time to tick his charm, and also gives him damage, which sends me holy pathing away because I am the 2nd reincarnation of Gordon. But I guess he's the 3rd reincarnation, so it's an even fight. So that was the general review of the 3 200 chi or 2-Spark ways of increasing your damage. In Sin versus Sin, you will be using Subsea, or not Subsea, you'll be using Power Dash and 2-Spark the most, just because Subsea is a debuff. Against Venos, you probably don't want to use Power Dash as much because they'll just purge it, unless you know that purge is on cooldown, or they're CC'd or something like that. Same thing for Double Spark, because you can just purge that. Question, yesterday. Well, yesterday was June 15th. Oh, you canceled animation of power. Okay. Okay, so that's not actually possible. What probably happened is that it went off. It went on cooldown. Because that was the thing on Age of Spirits, and just as the Tideborn expansion came out, 1.4.2, you could get the buff from skills without actually putting them on cooldown. And if you want to look a little bit more about it, go search Pioneer by ZSW. It's a good YouTube video about how that skill was used back when you could cancel cast it. But no, you can't do that anymore. You can kind of do this, but it doesn't really give anything useful unless you hit. The only benefit that I could think from canceling it, one is if you realize that they're like double sparked and you're not going to benefit from it, or two, if you have really fast hand speed and you feel like you can psychologically troll your opponent, then you could like kind of cancel it so the animation goes off, so they might react instantly to it. Like I would do something like this, or yeah, Dante would do something like that. So you could like cancel and then continue attacking, and it might give them a moment of panic that you can take advantage of. It's also kind of looks fancy, which I kind of like to do, but if you get it wrong, then you auto attack while having Chill the Deep on. So there's an effect where if you like headhunt someone right as they teleport away, the headhunt will go on cooldown. And the stun won't actually go off, but you will lose chi, and you will go on cooldown as well, and you will lose your mana and stuff like that. Hisoka style I'll talk about later, because 3 Spark is literally an entire discussion on their own. Yes, you have to cast it pretty much the exact same time they use teleport. They have to teleport away from you as you are channeling the skill. It's what happens. So you are able to start channeling because they're next to you, but then you can't complete channeling because they teleported away.